anyone object? Well, that's just what I was going to say. Does anyone object to us recording this? Again, we have no intention of posting it publicly, but that way we don't have to be furiously taking notes because we can go back to it and refer back if we have questions. So you all have received a copy of the agenda, what we want to talk through, but we want to take time to really start with introductions. So everyone has a good understanding of who's here. What I will say is that if there are multiple people representing a group, like Westminster's Peace and Justice Work Group, where we have so many of us, only one person needs to give the overview of the organization and what we do, what our goals are, that kind of thing. And the rest of us can just give our name and we'll move on. I will post in the chat a link to a Google Doc that I created that lists all the people who said they would be here, as well as those who said they wanted to be involved but had a conflict. I didn't want to add those who hadn't responded, just not sure if I should be sharing all their information. So you can link to the document I put in there. When I get a chance, I'll go in and make sure everyone has edit capabilities. So if you're not listed and want to be listed, or there's an error in the information I have listed, please go ahead and correct that as needed. But hopefully that'll provide a nice reference document for folks. With that, rather than popcorning it around, which can get confusing and people lose track of who's already spoken and who hasn't, I'll go ahead and call on people. It's fine if you don't want to be the one to speak for your organization. That's fine. Just say your name and say that you expect someone else will be doing that overview, and that will be just fine. I will start with Mike Gennade, who is going to be the representative from Westminster's Peace and Justice Work Group, to talk a little bit about who we are and what we do. Mike?
Great. Well, welcome everyone. And just briefly, Mike Gennade, I'm one of the co-conveners at Westminster Church's Peace and Justice Work Group. And we are very active in programs over the past few years, highlighting a number of speaker events, education series, as well as books and film. And we've also partnered with a number of local and national organizations to make our voices heard. And we hope to bring meaningful change to in services to justice and peace. Some of our primary focus is typically on education and dialogue on racism and its effects, reducing gun violence, criminal justice reform, equity in education, environmental justice, and voting rights. And we've partnered and collaborated with a number of organizations like Delaware Center for Justice, Delaware Social Justice Collaborative, Smart Justice Delaware, Poor People's Campaign, Delaware Voting Rights Campaign, and a number of others. So we're really kind of dedicated to educate, learn, and hopefully bring some change as well as we continue to focus on these topics. So I appreciate everybody being here.
Thank you, Mike. Let's see. How about Shannon Hansen? Would you like to go next?
I'd be happy to go next, and thank you, everyone. I am Shannon Hansen. I am ordained in the Newcastle Presbyterian Church as a minister for reconciliation. That's a big title, and we're not exactly sure what it means, except that it means I don't serve directly at a church, but I serve as a liaison to foster the 50-odd churches that are part of the Presbyterian community, their work in reconciliation in the world. Right now, I am the convener of the Montgomery Group. That is a group that is the anti-racism advocacy group for the Presbytery just attended an anti-racism 3-day seminar last week, and I'm very excited in working with anyone here who would like to be involved in hands on the ground, everything from organizing to educating to actually helping individuals and dealing with, and I think this is very important, and the last thing I'll say is dealing with the sin among us in Newcastle Presbytery. And I have some ideas about that, and happy to speak with anyone and sort of make that history plain to others. So looking forward to partnering both within the church and in the community. Thanks so much, Lynn.
Thank you. Sheridan, would you like to go next?
Hi, I'm Sheridan Qualis Kingsbury, and I'm a commissioner for the Racial Justice and Reconciliation Commission of the Episcopal Church in Delaware. That's the Episcopal Diocese of Delaware. And I was I'm the immediate past co-chair. New co-chair was just appointed last week, and I am now just a regular old commissioner. And so I'm representing the commission on this work group, and we look forward to partnering. We're trying to nudge the commission towards change. Right now, we're focused on what we call hands and heart. So it's really knowledge, building awareness in the diocese. We'd like to partner with ecumenical and interfaith communities. So we're definitely looking for partnership. And hopefully we could use that knowledge and awareness that we're gaining to begin to do change. I'm impatient for change. So they hear that from me all the time. It's like, okay, so what are you going to do with all this knowledge that we are covering? And we are so happy to have Sue doing the second course for us on racism in America. So we're very delighted. I think we have about 60 people on at the last Monday. We're hoping more will join us this week. So thank you. Thank you.
Let's see, we have both Miriam and Fee from the same church. And Miriam, I know you were not sure you'd be able to stay on the full evening. So whichever one of you would like to talk, go ahead. Let's get you guys introduced.
Okay, I'll do it. Good evening, everyone. Pastor Miriam Foltz. I serve at Newcastle Presbyterian Church in Newcastle. Fee joins us as a member of our Mission and Outreach Committee. We as a congregation committed under the umbrella of the Matthew 25 PCUSA initiative just recently within the last year to be a Matthew 25 congregation. So again, it's long terms, eradicating systemic poverty, dismantling racism, you name it. We've committed to Jesus's call to faith. But we as a smaller church are still trying to figure out what that looks like, especially within the context of the broader Wilmington, Northern Delaware context. And so excited to be on and to be collaborating with y'all and connecting. This is also my moment to say as I moved to Newcastle about 6 months before the pandemic hit. I feel like I'm still connecting with folks and learning who all the meeting folks and figuring out who the players are in terms of collaborative work, especially seeking justice and peace in the Wilmington area. So grateful to be on, and especially for Fee to join us. Thank you.
Fee, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, I'm pretty well introduced, but my name is Fee Price. I'm a fairly new member at the Presbyterian Church. It's one house away from where I live, so I never have an excuse to not go to church. But I'm still not completely sure what this organization, what this group does, but I'm very interested in the cause. And so I, hope to remain involved and do what I can for social injustice.
Thank you.
Thank you for including me. Appreciate it.
Just to be clear, when you say this group, we're not an official group of any kind at this point.
Okay.
Westminster's Peace and Justice Work Group wanted to reach out to others we were aware, other faith-based organizations who were doing similar work. And we had several people join us for a meeting last May. and thought it was a very good conversation and said we should do more of that. And here we are, coming around almost a year later and hadn't followed up on that. So we said, let's pull folks together again and expand it to others that we know. And we know there are still many, many more missing from the table, but reaching out to those we know to, have a conversation about what we might be able to do together. So there is nothing official or formal about this group. It's just people we know invited to come together to talk.
Okay.
We're glad you all came. Leveda, would you like to go next?
Thank you for inviting me. I am so glad to be here and join in on the conversation. I am a faith community nurse. I am a community activist involved in many of the community activities, and I wouldn't even know where to begin to tell you. I am a member of St. Vincent de Paul Society, USA. And in that, we highlight our core values of friendship and spirituality and service to the poor in our neighborhoods. Reaching out to them when they're in crisis and in need of friendship and someone to walk alongside of them. So I am recently, I call myself a roaming Catholic because my home church closed in 2016 after 30 years of service there. So I go from the top of Newcastle County to down to St. Michael's in Sussex County. I am a roaming Catholic. And in that sense, I reach out to many of the activities that go on through Catholic social ministries. Thank you.
I think, quick question, Leveda. I have in some old notes of mine that you were part of the 9th Street Ward Faith Leaders?
I still am the 9th Ward Interfaith Clergy Coalition. That's 5 churches and 2 synagogues.
All right. Hopefully at some point you can tell us more about that as well.
Certainly.
All right. Lisa Genzel.
Hello, I'm Lisa Gensel. I am the Social Justice Chair at Newark United Methodist Church in Newark. Our group exists to advance causes of social justice, advance equity and inclusion through our church community, our city, our world. We have focused in the past quite a lot on LGBT inclusion. We are a Reconciling Ministries Church, which is an inclusive program within the United Methodist Church. We focused a lot on that. We've focused on racial justice, environmental justice. We, in fact, have a creation care team that is being founded as a subgroup of our group. And I'm very glad that Lynn reached out and invited me.
Thanks for being here. Next, why don't we hear from the Trinity folks? I know you may not be an official group focused on social justice, but Catherine puts together a wonderful weekly newsletter with all kinds of great information. And I know there are several people from Trinity very passionate about these issues who are jumping in and joining us in all kinds of action activities. So I'm not sure who wants to present from Trinity, but why don't the Trinity folks go next?
I'm the least qualified. I'm one of their priests. So I'm Charles Cowan. I'm the associate rector at Trinity, and I'm really going to push it back to there's several groups at Trinity that meet. Ed and Joe convene an interfaith group. Trinity just is the real estate. Ed and Joe convene that. And then you mentioned Catherine. So I'm going to pass it to them to introduce themselves, but I'm the one who gets paid to be there.
Hi, all. Thank you for inviting me to your meeting. I'm as advertised. I do the Trinity SJ Weekly, and so I really try to gather information from the community, all of the great organizations that are working hard for social justice, and I try to put it into a nice, neat package to make it really easy for people to digest quickly and to act, as well, so they can plan their schedule for the upcoming week and get out and hopefully participate or write letters or do whatever the need is. So that's what I do.
We're
Thanks,
Joe and
Catherine.
Ed.
Yeah, Joe and Ed Kling, if you guys want to talk about the Wilmington Interfaith Leaders Group.
Ed and I are co-conveners of the Interfaith Leaders for Neighborhood Ministries, which has been going on since kind of before 2008 and was formed to get pastors and parishioners and whatever faith leaders from the pulpits to the streets. And we have a purpose, if I can read it quickly. It's to grow and develop increasing faith, hope, and caring actions, and to advance community life enrichment processes through interfaith leader initiatives throughout Wilmington neighborhoods and throughout the state, and to continually explore ways in which the faith communities can be visible in addressing key challenges that address us all. We do a lot of networking, of supporting others' activities, mentioned letter writers, bringing people together. And I'm glad to see several members of our community. And again, we're unofficial. We don't have any
Thank you.
other than that identity in a monthly meeting, which is, there's a Zoom meeting tomorrow at 11:30. And if you're interested, Lynn, could you give people the Zoom link if they wanted to talk about coming in there? Or yeah.
I will at some point in the conversation. I'll find the Zoom link and put it in the chat. I can do that.
Thank you. We're glad to be here and to hear what's going on.
Great. Donna, would you like to go next?
Hi, I'm sorry I can't be on camera. I care for my mother in the evenings. She's 97, and so I'm often on the move doing different things for her. So that's why I have to keep my camera off, because you wouldn't see me anyway, probably. I'm the executive director of the Methodist Action Program, working with the Delaware District. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, friend. I was muted. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Good to see you. Yeah, we're working with Baltimore Washington Conference now and trying to set up an advocacy day for going down to the legislature and interacting with the elected officials down there, one of which is a member of my board now. So not in her capacity. She was a member of the board before she got elected. Let's put it that way. So, what else were we supposed to say? What else were we supposed to tell? I forget. I'm a little distracted because I'm dealing with my mom. She's 97. And I don't know if you remember my mom, Lisa. Yes. Okay.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, well, she's 97, still getting around, but I have to care for her overnight. So
Okay.
I'm here in the overnights.
All right. Thanks, Donna.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Rita?
Good evening, and thank you, Lynn, rather, for inviting me to this meeting. My name is Reverend Rita Michoud Page, and I pastor New Beginnings Community African Methodist Episcopal Church in Frederica, Delaware, and chair our Dover District Ministerium, which is, our organization for all of the pastors in our Dover district, which there are 19. 19 of us. And we right now, well, of course, the AME Church was founded due to racial injustice in back in Philadelphia, but in the 1700s, about 1787, when Absalom Jones and Richard Allen started the Free African Society. So we are always undertaking social justice issues, whether we're down at Legislative Hall, you know, speaking out. We were vocal for HB 198, get Black history back in the schools, whole lot of bills, getting the bill passed so that ex-felons could have the right to vote. So we're always out there. And right now we are working with Clean Slate in Delaware, and we're working on expungements. And so we want to make sure that there's equity and justice, you know, for people who need expungements as well. I work with Levada. There's a lot of work that she does that she did not mention. She chairs the Health Commission for the state branch of NAACP. I'm on her committee. And of course, we're always concerned about equity and health disparities out there. And I chair the women in NAACP for the state, and the Kent Coalition for Vaccine Equity for the Black and Brown communities. I'm outgoing IMA's Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance Social Action Chair. So we were always working in the Dover and vicinity Kent County area. I think I'll stop there because I wear some other hats, but that's enough, I think. And I'm glad to be a part of this dialogue. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And that's exactly why we're recording this. I could not take notes fast enough to record all the different things that you're involved in. So that's very helpful. Thank you. Norm, I know you're wearing a couple different hats here this evening, but would you like to tell us about what the Epworth Social Justice Team is up to? Oops, you're muted. Norm, you're still muted.
Epworth is a large Methodist church outside of Rehoboth Beach. And right now it is reorganizing under new leadership. So I'm not quite sure where it's going, but we've been working with the Southern Delaware Alliance for Racial Justice, and they have an interfaith group. And tomorrow night we'll meeting a group called My Neighbor's Faith, and it deals with all sorts of religious groups. The leader of this is a rabbi, and very early June, we will be going to the mosque in Dover. So we're really pretty ecumenical. And I can say now I'm also, I guess wife and I are the first virtual members of Westminster. We have an associate membership with Epworth, where she was music director for 20 years. So in the future, I'll give you see how we broaden out. I'm sure it's going to become a very active group. It was in the past.
Great, thank you.
You and Judy have always been pioneers, Norm. So yeah, welcome.
That's fun.
And now we have both Carl Athon and Lyle Dykstra here from the Poor People's Campaign. I don't know if you guys coordinated in terms of which one of you wants to give a little overview.
We have not coordinated, but we did know we were both going to be here, although I don't see Carl's box. And I am willing to do this tonight, at least I plan. So here we go. Your request was, what organization are you involved with, and involvement, activities, goals of that organization. So every one of you, I just am impressed by this group. You are a treasure trove of human resources in our Wilmington community and in the state of Delaware. And every one of you can be involved in the Poor People's Campaign. You are busy folk, but we send out these Action Network emails, and we try to be specific. This bill needs the support of legislators for these reasons for this bill. This is the bill, this is what it's about, et cetera. And those will be coming out. And if you're on our Action email network, you can respond. Now, in terms of the organization, that's one. So I'm ready for you all to sign up on for the Poor People's Campaign. And there are a couple of ways you can do that. Lynn can help you with that, since you all have her emails, and she's one of the people on the coordinating committee. The states that are involved in the Poor People's Campaign, of which there are, according to National, about 38 at the moment. In Delaware, that's 11 persons who mostly are individuals who have a heart like yourselves for social justice and want to make a difference and want to make change in our society that will make us far more equitable than we currently are. And it also is open to impacted people, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And we have persons who have certainly experienced being impacted, either them individually or in their families, in their family history. Activities. We do rallies. We did one on the environment last June, along with Interfaith Power and Light and other groups. We worked on minimum wage issue back in 21 and had a rally in Dover in both of those cases. We got out the vote, get out the vote work this fall. And legislation, as I just mentioned, will be forthcoming. And goals, our goal as a Poor People's Campaign is to raise the moral issue that is involved in our society when there is great inequity, which we know exists if you get involved in the social justice issue. So we want to lift up the voices of people who are impacted by the 5 interlocking injustices that the Poor People's Campaign talks about. Those injustices are poverty, racism, ecological devastation, war economy, and the false narrative of religious nationalism. I could say a lot more about that one. The Reverend Dr. Greg Jones talked about white supremacy. People who have white supremacy theology fit that nationalistic narrative definition. All right. It's basically America has never done any wrong. They're the beacon on the hill. We have creeds that say we're a beacon on the hill. And that's not bad. That's a good thing. As Martin Luther King said, America has high blood pressure on creeds, but an anemia of deeds. And so in terms of local Delaware Poor People's Campaign,
Lyle, I don't know that we're going to have time to go into that level of specificity.
I was just going to mention Ida, and I'll let that go. The Ida hurricane, the January following, it was about a number of months, almost 6 since the hurricane, since September, and whatever those numbers of months are for. And there were people still suffering, and we pulled together a lot of people who had responsibility for housing and homelessness, et cetera. And it was a great meeting. And those people got to speak their piece, the people who were still the Ida victims. I'll finish with that. Thank you, Lynn, for watching. Thank you.
Thanks, Lyle. Carl, could you introduce yourself?
I'm Carl Lafon. I'm on the coordinating committee with the Poor People's Campaign. As you see under my face here, it says Christina Cultural Arts Center because I'm between meetings. So there's another meeting I got to go to. I just wanted to say hello.
All right. Thanks, Carl. I think we've hit all the organizations, and now we'll finish introductions with a bunch of other folks who are here from Westminster. And we'll start with you, Greg.
Well, I'm the senior pastor at Westminster, and I'm pretty much the luckiest guy in the world because I have all these dedicated people who are very concerned about racial injustice. That's all I'll say.
All right. Thank you. Sue?
Oops. I'm Sue Linderman, along with Mike and Aid and Lynn, the co-founders of Westminster's Peace and Justice Work Group. And I also teach a Racism in America series currently being sponsored by the Episcopal Church of Delaware. Thank you, Sheridan, and the YWCA.
Thanks. Dave?
My name is Dave McBride. I'm from Westminster. I'm an attorney in Wilmington. And I guess just for networking purposes, I'll mention that I'm on the board of the Delaware Center for Justice, the Innocence Project, and the Delaware Bar Foundation, all that are involved in various criminal justice reform efforts. And I'm proud to say my firm just signed up, and I'm on a team to represent seeking post-conviction relief for an Alabama convict in connection with Brian Stevenson's Equal Justice program.
Wow.
And the father of State Senator Sarah McBride.
That's my most famous passive accomplishment, I guess.
Thanks, Dave. Jane?
Hi, I'm Jane Palmer. I'm a member of the Peace and Justice and a member of Westminster Presbyterian Church. And what an act to follow, huh? Dave McBride.
You're doing more than I'm doing, Jane. I assure you.
Thanks, Jane. Marlis? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm Marlis Kerr. I'm a member of Westminster and have been active in the Peace and Justice Work Group since Sue Linderman introduced the topic to our church through a series of classes at Westminster. And it's been a wonderful journey. And I am blown away and awed by the group that's gathered here tonight. I appreciate the networking.
Thanks. Marty and Bob?
Hi, I'm Bob Emmerts, my wife Marty. We're at Trinity. Basically, we just jump on March when needed. We're relatively new to Wilmington, so we're just trying to find out what's going on, and we're fortunate enough to luck into this group. I am kind of the secretary and note taker for the Interfaith Leaders Group that Joe and Ed run, and just glad to be here.
Great. Sorry, I missed you when we were doing the Trinity folks.
Oh, no, not at all.
Let's see, Bill.
We had our heads down.
Bill Nace?
Hi, I'm Bill Nace, member of Westminster and the Peace and Justice Work Group.
Thanks. Sandy?
Sandy Reinecker, member of Westminster's Peace and Justice Work Group, and also work specifically on the Thursday evening education series that we have, 7 o'clock every Thursday.
Thanks. Sally?
Hi, I am a member of Westminster's Peace and Justice Working Group and have this particular interest in environmental justice.
Thank you. Casey?
I am Casey Morrison. I'm an elder at Westminster Presbyterian Church, and I work with the Peace and Justice Group and spend a good deal of time with our Urban Missions Committee.
Thank you. I think that's everyone from Westminster. I see Becky, you joined a little late. So although the Westminster folks were just giving their names, the first one to speak from any organization is supposed to say a little bit more about what you do, your goals, and that kind of thing. So please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Perfect. I am Becky Laster, and I'm from the First Unitarian Church on Route 202, basically. And I am the chair of our Human Rights Task Force there, which we do a lot of this similar things as I think your Peace and Justice Group do. Right now, we're really working on housing advocacy, which I think a lot of you are working on housing advocacy as well. And then I also am the chair of what is called UUDAN, which is the Unitarian Universalist Delaware Advocacy Network, which is combines the 5 UU churches. There's 5 churches in Delaware to do legislative action. And so the 5 UU churches, we have monthly meetings where we talk about what's coming up, what's on the docket down in Dover, and what we want to be testifying for, and trying to show up. We try to send out to our email list, which is about 200 UUs in the state, which isn't as many as I would like it to be honest. Recruiting actually within our congregations tends to be harder than you might imagine. But we send out emails to them to write to their legislators on issues like climate change, like justice, smart justice, housing. We have some people going to the testify tomorrow at the tenants right to yes, tenants' right to representation. I think that one's tomorrow. There's 2 of them coming up, and but I think that one's the one. So if someone's going to testify for that, and so that's who I am, and I am very happy to be here. And I'm sorry I was late. I was in another meeting prior to this.
So thank you all for joining us. It's already 7:40, and we've only gotten through introductions. Clearly, the agenda was way too ambitious for a 1-hour meeting. But let's at least start with what I think is probably the most important question in terms of potential value of a group like this getting together, and at what frequency. It could be as simple as, getting together on an annual basis to share out the progress we've made and what upcoming goals are, or it could be a lot more substantial in terms of, meeting on a regular basis to figure out how to really leverage what we're all doing in a way that can be more powerful than the work that our individual organizations are doing. So I'll just kind of throw that out there. And I know it's a large group. If the discussion becomes too difficult, we can break out into a few breakout rooms and then come back together. But let's see if this works in terms of folks sharing your thoughts in response to that.
So then could you give us one question at a time?
So the first one is, I guess, do you have value in bringing this group together? And if so, at what frequency? I see clapping by Lisa.
I'm never sure if it's clapping or hand raising. Oh, sorry. I'm never sure if it's clapping or hand raising. I just hit the first thing I can find. But I definitely see value more than annually, but maybe even right now, quarterly, to hear what's coming up for a particular group, to hear, and to be able to, connect and say, like I see a lot of folk here from Wilmington. I'm from over far away across the northern part of the state. But, I could definitely, get in and get into some of these projects or connect you to something that's going on in Newark that I'd love to see you.
Sheridan?
Quarterly would make a lot of sense. I was just going to suggest the same thing. And then if we all sort of report what we're doing, maybe over time, another project that could involve more organizations would reveal itself.
Sheridan?
Yeah, I support that. I think annually it'd be good too, but not the only meeting. I think quarterly would be great. But I think before we get to quarterly, perhaps a Saturday afternoon where we can spend like 3 hours or so really trying to figure out how we gonna wrap our hands around this and what we gonna, because it's just such a, somebody said such value here, but we kind of go off in our own areas, and perhaps we can, like, I think it was Marla who just said that, Catherine, I can't remember, but what's one thing that maybe this group can work on while we also work on small our own projects? But I think that we could, if we can find one thing or one way we could all coordinate and collaborate, we'll be interested. I know for me, I want to get this Episcopal church and this Episcopal diocese moving in the direction of change. And I'm not sure how to do that. How to, maybe how to, we have a lot of people who are doing knowledge stuff, but how do we get them to take that knowledge and move it to the next step? That's my biggest barrier, and I'm trying to figure out how we can get some help with that.
Thanks. Lyle?
Well, as a retired Presbyterian pastor, the challenge is formidable. And I like the idea of maybe quarterly meetings, although when you say quarterly and it's already February, that means March, April, maybe that would be perfect for, I think, of legislation issues in Delaware. And the issue of that Sheridan just named, that to me is an ongoing challenge for the class of people that I see occupying most of our pews. Mainly we are middle class, well up, mostly middle class. We don't have any comforts that we lack. And therefore it's easy to be very content and pull back. And we are not in touch in a thorough way, and I like the idea of taking more time on a weekend, but to what avail? How would it be structured? And all those kinds of questions would have to be there. And how can we find and interact with people who and get to know fellow human beings whose life has not been like ours? And what would that mean? And would it work? And there are just thousands of questions. So I just want us to be coordinators as much as possible to make a difference on the issues that at least we can identify from moment to moment as life takes us along and as the issues come up. And that's enough comment from me, because I don't really have any great specificity, except I'm open to whatever somebody suggests if I can make it be of use.
Thanks, Lyle. Sue?
Thanks. I'm struck by the range of churches and denominations and organizations that are represented here. And I think one of the foundational questions when it comes to issues of racial and social justice is, what is the role of the church? The church, sadly, has played less than an admirable role in some of the circumstances that we currently face. And so I wonder if there's an opportunity for this collection of representatives to investigate the idea of speaking, advocating for the church in legislation, in programs, in initiatives. And there might be an opportunity for us to explore that and see how we might have a greater or a broader impact or influence by speaking across this range and broader still, synagogues, mosques, whatever, to speak for faith communities in terms of the work that we are called to do to bring peace and justice to everyone.
Thanks, Sue. We'll go to Donna next, but Joe and Ed, I saw what I think was probably an attempt to put hand up, and we'll go to you after Donna. Donna, you're muted.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Lynn. All right. So I know a few of you have been active in legislation advocacy and testifying in front of committees and things like that. And I had the opportunity to do that last year. And I can tell you during legislative sessions, which is for Delaware anyway, it's from January, the second week of January sometime to the end of June. Things come up rather quickly sometimes. And so I really think that during the legislative session, we need to meet more than once so that we can be helping each other know, okay, well, this is coming up next, in the next couple of weeks. If we can put together an action network, Lyle, or someone else who has an action network that's active. So that we know and can get our congregations and our constituents involved, because if we wait until quarterly, as Lyle was saying, it's already February, and so that would be maybe only one more meeting before the end of legislative session. So, but I do like the idea of taking a bigger chunk of time at some point also. But I don't think that quarterly is going to work in terms of the first part of the year when the legislature is in session. If we want to be down there testifying and bringing our congregants' testimonies with us as well, which is what the United Methodist the Methodist Action Program does for United Methodist churches.
Thanks, Donna. And just before I call on Joe and Ed, I will say that we don't necessarily have to come together in order to cascade and share action items. There's a lot of that already being put together by other advocacy groups, others who are already, initiating the letter writing campaigns or already have emails that specify, here's what's coming up this week. You need to testify at 11 o'clock on Tuesday and 3 o'clock on Wednesday for these things. And there are others that are already doing a great job of compiling that information. And we can share that out if we decide that's something that would be useful and helpful for this group. That's something, if we say, yes, we want to do that, that can be done even before and without us having to come together for several hours on a Saturday. But let's hear some other ideas about what we might do. Joe and Ed?
I'm interested in knowing what kind of life enrichment we're making in neighborhoods, with youth and families and that sort of thing, and in particular neighborhoods where we can really make a difference. And we've done a bit of that, and when it happens, it really lifts up a lot of the spirit of what's going on in the right way. And we've got youth working together to look at how their lives could be better addressed in the community and how they can grow that in their lives.
Thank you. Rita?
Oh, okay. For me, I don't know. I think that there probably is some great value with this group, and just being very honest and transparent. I probably won't have a lot of time to commit to this group. I'm interested in what it sounds like you want to do, and would definitely be willing, from time to time to collaborate. But also there is for all of, you don't even have to be clergy, but the Lieutenant Governor convenes a meeting once a month with faith leaders all over the state, from all over the state. She convenes several meetings. She convenes faith leaders. She convenes Black leaders. She convenes Latino leaders. And like I said, for the faith leaders, you don't have to be clergy. And everyone is welcome. And Rabbi Beals from Wilmington, he opens us every month. And so that is another avenue where issues are presented, and we get to hear who's working on what, because there are many agencies, even state agencies, who attend that meeting. You get to hear what's going on in the state, what we need, what we could be working on together. If your individual church is doing something, you have an opportunity to even post your flyers, bring all of that together. So that's a good network, I think, for this particular this particular group. And there are people from all faiths on there. So it's a start. And if you're interested, Lynn, I could send your email addresses to Edwin Hernandez, who sends out the Zoom invites every month for her meetings.
Yes.
Because I'm just being honest, because I'm in a lot of different organizations, already doing a whole lot of stuff, and just don't have time to take on another thing. As a matter of fact, when I said that I'm the immediate past chair of the IMA Social Action Committee, I stepped down because I no longer have time for that. And I have committed to helping the new chair, but if we can all work together with what's already out there, that's where I am. That's where I am. I just want to be honest, because when I commit to something, I commit. And I don't want to say that I'm going to commit here and then not have the time to do so.
I hear you. I appreciate that. So yes, please add my name so I get those emails. And if there's a web link or anything like that to learn more about the Lieutenant Governor's group, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, and so if people were to give you their email addresses, Lynn, I will send that to you, and then you can I'll give it to Edwin. I'll give all the email addresses to Edwin, and then he'll send everyone out the invitation.
Very good. Okay, thank you. And Bill, I did see you raising your hand, but I think Becky had her hand up first. So we'll go Becky and then Bill.
Okay. I think that it is a good point that legislative advocacy is fast and furious, and that in-person meetings to address that, it may not be the most efficient way to do it. So I guess it depends on what the mission of this group is. Like, if it's really just sharing information, we can share information electronically. There's no reason why we can't somehow share information electronically, right? And in terms of tests, but it is great to know, like, what we struggle with a lot of the time is that we need to testify at the same committees, two different committees at the same time. And we don't have enough people to cover that, right? Because there's just so many issues, because we have what I feel like we do poorly at is choosing one thing. We try to do all of it, and therefore it is a frenetic pace of legislative advocacy. And so because of that, the pace of how things go from January to June, I also am not sure that this group would benefit. Like, I don't know that how much benefit it would be for meeting with this group every month about that specifically. I think a quarterly group to support each other in that and to makes a little bit more sense to me than like a group that's like, I can't, like, doing it with 5 UU churches is like more than I can already handle. Like, I can't kind of imagine how we would organize that across all these churches and other types of organizations. So anyway, that's just my opinion.
I think it's a good point. There is no mission for this group at this point. I mean, that's why I like the idea of a Saturday session to get together where we have more time to talk about all that, because there are lots of good ideas coming up. But you're right, the last thing we all need is another just regular meeting to attend that is not adding anything specific to what we're achieving. So we would have to figure out what is the value in us getting together. Is there something where the faith community, is there value in picking one something that we all come around and do? Or is it a matter of just keeping each other informed so that we can better leverage the efforts that others are doing, so that we're not doing the same homework to, you know, prepare the legislative calls to action and those kind of things. So
yeah, exactly. And I'll just say one more thing about that, and that is that what I do see value in is I do feel like we tend to silo in Delaware, and faith-based organizations tend to silo as well. So I think there's huge benefit in this group connecting with many different faiths and other types of organizations towards common goals, because I think that is something that has been a struggle to create in Delaware. So I'm all for it for that reason as well.
I agree. I'm going to make a note. It is 8 o'clock. We had intended for this to be a 1-hour meeting. I'll say maybe we can, if everyone's okay, maybe stretch it another 10 minutes to hear a few more comments and then determine at least a next step that folks think makes a lot of sense. Clearly, we're not going to get to a lot of the other questions that we had on the table, but let's hear from a few more folks. And Bill, you were next.
This morning, I listened to an hour-and-a-half program that was sponsored by the Brookings Institution, and it was the revealing of the release of their new groundbreaking, as they phrased it, national survey on understanding the threat of white Christian nationalism on American democracy today. And I was leery about attending it, but I must say that the hour and a half of reviewing the survey and having 3 very powerful panel speakers raised my awareness of white Christian nationalism, and perhaps is a reasonable topic to understand more about where we are in Delaware with regard to that challenge, with an interfaith community, kind of building off of Sue's thought about what can we as Christians do? What can we, and what are the threats of the white Christian nationalism movement that's moving through this country, whether we see it or feel it ourselves or not, I don't know. But my thought is that that's an opportunity for a Saturday afternoon. And if we could get a hold of the survey, if we could understand the survey, and I don't know whether a guest speaker is possible or not, but the idea is to improve our understanding of the threat that this has on the American democracy and on all of the programs that basically we're working on.
Thanks, Bill. We can catch up later. Hopefully I can share a link to that in a follow-up email out to this group. Might be helpful. Casey?
Thank you. A couple of things strike me. The first is the marvel of all these witnesses here who are working on similar things, and there is a kind of benefit, I think, of finding some means of associating together so we can share in the plethora of things that people are doing who are on this call this evening. So one sort of goal for the group, and people have said this already, is that we might be a kind of clearinghouse for information, not in the formal sense, but sharing information. For example, if legislative activity is one of the things that moves us, and it is believed that there is some benefit to having church organizations involved in that. We might use some of the means that are already available as a way of circulating that information to this group of witnesses. And then the other thing is that perhaps there could be an occasional time when we chose a topic that some group of people is interested in, that can advance church communities and social change activities. And we might come together on those occasional bases to talk about those things, organize what we might do, how we might be more engaged with those. I don't know whether that's quarterly or whatever, but there is some benefit for this community of witnesses finding a way to associate with each other and to communicate about the various things we're doing.
Thanks, Casey. Leveda?
Yes, thank you. I am following Reverend Page. I don't think I have another hour in the day to join another group. However, I feel that the groups that we have, when we're talking about faith communities and different groups working in silos, definitely I am one who likes to connect the dots. Some last year before last, some time ago, we started a campaign, the Nonviolent Cities Project, to make Wilmington a nonviolent city. If, in following the example of Dr. Martin Luther King, that we can create a beloved community, we can deal with the racial justice that we're crying out against. We can come together as a model for the secular community, as faith communities who love each other, who talk to each other, who work with each other. We could do that if we had a premise of nonviolence, if we had that mindset that we will live for peace and righteousness. If anyone is interested in following up, there happens to be about 40 some communities that have engaged in the Nonviolent City Project. Wilmington is one of them, but we've fallen into a weak strength because of our leadership it's Pache and Benny that had to reorganize. And so in their reorganization, they've concentrated on more immediate needs. And so nonviolent cities have been put on the back burner. But if we who want to do something join in the Nonviolent Cities Project, learn about what it means to be nonviolent. It's not just about the absence of gun violence and all that. It's a lot more than that. If we want to do so, I can't meet to meet. I can't meet to talk anymore. I have to roll up my sleeve and be about it. The work. And it's the work that is needed. So if anyone's interested in finding out more about it, you could, I think they have a brochure at paceebini.org to get that and consider doing that. Let's make Wilmington a nonviolent city. Make it a model for other cities in the state of Delaware. We might be able to get somewhere. Thank you.
Thanks. Before I go to you, Dave, I'll just say that, even if we don't end up deciding that this group has the ability or the time to come together on a regular basis, we still might be able to set up some sort of electronic dashboard where we can at least share with each other opportunities to get involved in each other's efforts. So like the nonviolent cities project, we can post information about that in a place where others, can join in. So even that, I feel like at a minimum level would be a way for us to break down some of the silos and leverage the efforts that each other are involved in. Dave?
Yeah, I was just going to say it would be very helpful to me, if it doesn't already exist, for there to be a clearinghouse that would provide in one place information about programs that you could volunteer for, either providing help physically or monetary help, 2 education programs, and 3 legislative projects. And I got to say, Catherine, I love your email every week that provides all the information about various things that go on. That's probably the most helpful email I get all week. So thank you for that. Second thing I'll say is it seems to me that the churches in this state have a special opportunity that I'm not sure we're making the most of to affect legislation in the state. I'm not sure we're making the most of it because I'm not sure that we're doing it very effectively. And as an example, Becky's comment about needing people, I know I know how quickly you need to pull people together to go down to Dover to if you will, lobby or testify. But with this many groups supporting these efforts, we ought to be able to come up with action teams that would be ready to move. So I just think we could be much more effective from a political perspective. You'd probably have to create a 501c4 organization to do it, but I think we've got a lot of untapped potential, and utilizing that potential. I think maybe the best thing we could do to counter the Christian nationalism, because we could speak for a Christianity and for religions that aren't that, and filling that void may be the most important thing we could do. I shut up.
Thanks, Dave. So as long as there are no more raised hands at the moment, I'm going to cut us off there. I have failed at trying to end us by 8:10, but let me take a couple minutes to try to pull all this together and just say, I am wowed by everyone we have with us here this evening. So thank you for coming out and sharing with us. I hope we will find some way of continuing this conversation. I'm leaving on a vacation tomorrow morning, so you won't hear from me for the next week and a half. But when I get back, I will reach out and do follow-up. I will try to summarize some of the things that we talked about, probably include a doodle poll for maybe some Saturdays, find one where folks who are willing to commit a few hours to getting together and having further conversation, we can do that. Those who are not able to make it can share their ideas with us electronically or one-on-one brief calls. I will also say that there were a number of people who were not able to be with us here tonight, including folks outside of our Christian community. Both Rabbi Sonia Starr and Rabbi Yair Robinson had wanted to be here, as well as some other folks. So there is a great opportunity for this to be an interfaith conversation. But I know there are a lot of others who are missing from this conversation. Many other faith-based organizations focused on social justice, and I'd like to include them as well. So I won't ask for those names now, but in the follow-up email that will eventually come out, I will ask you, so be thinking about it. Who else do we need to be inviting to the table for next conversation? So can I just, with a quick show of hands, do folks like the idea of a next step being trying to pull together for a Saturday session to do a deeper dive into a conversation? Show of hands of how many would like to participate in something like that? Okay, it's enough that we'll try to make that happen. I don't know where it will go, but hopefully something will come out of it. So even those that don't have the time to engage in it will be able to stay connected with us as we move the conversation forward. Sue, you often have great additions and closing something out. So I'm guessing you have something else you'd like to say to the group. Take it away.
Well, I'm just so glad to see you all here. You know, the path is steep, the work is enormous, there is no end to it. And yet, step by step, inch by inch, action by action, we can make a real difference. And it is always reaffirming and reassuring to know that we are part of a cloud of witnesses seeking to bring peace and justice in our community. So thank you all. I think we'll be guided by whatever spiritual guidance we each experience to take the steps that we need to. We don't all need to do the same thing by any stretch, but our presence here together is so affirming. And it's just been a delight. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone, and good night.
Good night.
Thanks.
night.
Good night.